Hi, and welcome to A Cuppa with Steve in association with Out News Global. Today, I'm going to be sitting having a chat with a woman that never runs from a battle. Fab's Jennifer Saunders wants her in her gang. Her acting credentials include The Vice, Coronation Street, and she has countless theatre awards. She even outsold Cher in the charts. She's an ally to the LGBT community. She works tirelessly for mental health issues, and her book, which I'll just show you here, The Unwelcome Visitor, was #1 in the charts for 7 weeks in the Times. Let me present you Denise Welch. Hi Denise, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, gorgeous friend?
I mean, I have to say you're looking amazing.
Well, I think I'm trying to bring as much colour to the world as possible. So I've had my walls painted pink. I've got my hubby's art on the
right behind that. Listen, I was out the other day and someone said to me, Denise Welch is the one woman not affected by this lockdown. She's in Hollyoaks, she's in Loose Women, and now you have a new crime drama coming out. How has lockdown generally been for you?
Well, it's not a crime drama, remember, it's a true crime show.
Okay, yes, sure.
Well, okay, so the last year has been, I have had periods like everybody else of being overwhelmed, sad, grief-stricken, mortified, angry, furious. But I've been incredibly lucky that my unwelcome visitor, my major depressive disorder, has not come to my door since September 2019, which was the episode that I videoed that went viral, that spawned the book. And I've been incredibly lucky, and there is no rhyme or reason for it, Stephen, why it has not come to my door. So September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. That's a year and 7 months. And that is the longest. I get quite emotional, really. It's the longest in 32 years that I've never had an episode of clinical depression. So I've managed to navigate the pandemic in the same way that everybody else. You're right. I've been very fortunate to be incredibly busy, especially in a very, you know, people like to talk about this business being very ageist. And so I'm kind of there to fly the flag for the, you know, don't write us old birds off. I'm 63 in May, and I'm busier than I've ever been. So there's life in the old birds yet.
But listen, tell me a little bit, how did you get involved in producing, being involved in the crime show?
I am producing as well. I am an executive producer on it, which is my first executive producer credit. So I met a guy called Steve Regan about 3 years ago, who expressed an interest in working with me, which is always lovely. And so over the next couple of years, we got a few ideas together. We pitched this and that, and nothing really happened. But I always said that of all the things I didn't just want to present something for the sake of presenting something. I've got to an age now, Stephen, where I've been on telly a lot. Yeah. I don't just want to be on telly for the sake of it. Yes, you know, and so but he knew about my obsession with the true crime genre, but it doesn't come from necessarily a sensationalist point. It comes from, I think if my life had taken a more academic route, unlikely, as opposed to a creative route, I would love to have been a forensic psychiatrist or a criminal psychologist or or something like that. Yeah. So in my little amateur way, I've become a bit of a true crime aficionado. But I've always thought, Lincoln and I both, because he loves the genre as well, and I've always thought, what happens to the survivors of real life crime? What happens when the perpetrators don't take it to murder, but they leave these people scarred physically and therefore scarred hugely mentally? We don't hear enough about the survivors. The perpetrators' stories are often incredibly compelling. You know, their background, why did they do this? Who were their parents? What brought them to that point? Yes, but we see a lot of that, but we don't see enough about the survivors. Yeah. So we took this to my favorite channel, the Crime and Investigation channel that I watch all the time. I still can't believe it when I see an advert for my show. It's like, oh my God, I'm on the Crime and Investigation channel. And so basically this show is six episodes, and we talk to 6 people who have all chosen not to become defined by what's happened to them. They've changed it from being a victim to a survivor. and not allowed the perpetrator to have any more control over their lives moving forward. And these people are awe-inspiring. And I don't want people to find the series, it's not sensational. This is not about finding the series harrowing. It's about finding the series uplifting and about looking at the indomitable human spirit which gets people through.
Have you ever been witness to a true crime yourself?
I've been incredibly fortunate that I haven't been a victim of physical domestic violence. I was in a relationship many years ago where I was in a coercive, controlled relationship. So that did give me some empathy with the domestic abuse cases that we cover. We have an amazing woman called Bethany Marchant, who's from Leeds. She's a dance teacher. And she basically, her partner, Stephen Carr, they had what she thought was a fairly happy relationship. She knew he'd been in prison, but he said it was just for a fight. He didn't really go into any more details, and she thought, well, everybody can make a mistake, deserves a second chance. Anyway, basically, it resulted in them ending the relationship fairly amicably, she thought, but she ended up back at his house to pick up some belongings. And she saw a side of him that she'd never seen before, because normally there are red flags. Normally these abusers, they tell you that you shouldn't be wearing that. They don't want you going out with certain people, that includes members of the opposite sex. And they tell you where you can and can't go, what you can and can't do. There was none of that with him. So she was then subjected to a 3-hour torture period. What she didn't know is that he had installed CCTV cameras. So this attack that nearly killed her is on video. We don't show a lot of it. We can't. It would be too harrowing for people, and legally you can't, and nor would we want to. But it's often when Bethany is not on camera and you can just hear that you realize the true terror that was going through her. At one point, he hung her from her neck for 3 minutes. And it's just, oh my God, how this woman has come through this. And now she helps other people. And she has been determined that this is not going to define her life. That's just an example of the kind of person that we're lucky enough to have talking to us, and it's just incredible.
And as a celebrity yourself, you've been trolled. It must take its impact on you emotionally. Do you ever feel unsafe yourself?
Yeah, there has been periods when I felt unsafe. I've made the decision to come off Twitter for those reasons, not really for my own safety, but actually Twitter threw me off, not for any reason. It just, something happened and my Twitter went down and I couldn't reinstate it. No matter what I did, I couldn't reinstate it. Twitter support were not supportive at all. And then after 10 days of not being on Twitter, of which I was addicted to, the politics, the drama, everything, getting involved, the anger, rant. And I suddenly thought after 10 days, oh my God, I feel like a different person. I feel free of the morning rage and anger and desire to get involved in things that really, it's like, what's the point? Why you get, there's some things that I never think that, there's some things I will always fly the flag for and be involved in. But Twitter is wonderful for many things, but it's become such a toxic platform in lots of things. And I was just sick of, I was sick of the abuse, I was sick of the anger. And so for my own mental health, I've come off that platform. I find Instagram a much more pleasant platform for me.
When you're out and about, how do you find the public react to you? Is it always positive?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I've honestly, you know, even going back as far as Coronation Street 24 years ago, I have to say, being in Hollyoaks at the moment and seeing what some of the young kids write, because my character is horrible. She's a bully and she's a narcissist. Yeah. And so the young kids just think she's awful and vile, and they don't hold back. They don't have any filter when they let, you know, when they voice those opinions. And it just makes me think of when 24 years ago I went into Corrie and broke up the most stable, loving marriage that soap opera had ever seen in Kevin and Sally. Thank God there was no social media, because I don't know if I would have survived it. But, you know, even then I used to go into the streets, and you've got to remember 24 million people a week an episode were watching that, over a third of the country. It's mind-blowing to think that's how many people watched it then.
One of your wonderful co-stars, Charlie Lawson, was on recently saying it's time to go back to drama school. and do the old-fashioned apprenticeship and do your 3 years, do your rep? Is this something you think it would be helpful? Because there's an awful lot of people now just doing like a week's course, and next thing they're
I think Charlie's got a point. It's interesting because my own son, who is now 20 and doing very well as an actor, didn't go to drama school because he started early. So I've had to talk, you know, it doesn't always mean that you need to train. I have a husband who's you can see behind me, who didn't know what he wanted to do till he was 40, and he's now become an international successful contemporary artist, and he's self-taught. Yeah. But I think the point that Charlie is making is that the industry has become too accessible to people who don't necessarily have any acting talent.
Yes, yeah.
And just because you've been on a reality show, and listen, I'm not knocking reality shows, Stephen, you know that's how I spend my downtime, watching reality shows. I absolutely love them. But I don't expect those people to then be going up for acting jobs. So if you are an incredibly good actor and you get work, I don't care where you've come from, what your background is, but it's opened up too many people to equate fame with acting ability. And that's what Charlie means. I did like it when I started in weekly rep after drama school, and you had to get your equity card you got your provisional equity card, and there was only every theatre company only had 2 to give a year. Never even thought of television, it was always theatre. And then you had to do 40 weeks in rep in order to get your full equity card. Yeah. But it was an apprenticeship, and we were proud of it. Yeah. And you know, and I do think that there is a balance.
Talking about your 2 wonderful boys, my God, they're amazing. Both of them have support LGBT rights. Matthew's donated loads of money to it. How do you bring up 2 such wonderful boys?
Because of my gay friends like you, I suppose. They've had a very gay influence in their lives. And I think because, you know, a lot of my friends have been gay growing up. I think one of the things about my industry is that there is diversity in my industry that there hasn't been in many other industries. There's very little prejudice. There's very you know, people don't care about class, people don't care about color, people don't care about gender, people don't care about sexuality in our industry much earlier than that happened in different industries. And I think that my kids grew up, you know, if Auntie Sue and Uncle Jim was staying, or if Uncle Stephen and Uncle Paul or Auntie Lester was staying, it didn't. So they don't understand. They don't understand homophobia at all. They don't get it.
And what are your favourite crime shows that you watch?
Well, I love. Well, I'm watching I Survived a Crime, which is a similar show on the Crime and Investigation channel, but the American version. But they don't really talk in depth to the survivors. Yeah. They use more CCTV footage of what happened. So I love that. One of my favorites is Dateline on Sky Crime. Dateline has only recently come to the UK. Lincoln and I used to fly to the other side of the world, to Los Angeles. We'd get into our hotel or apartment, wherever we were staying, and we'd literally sit down and watch Dateline. Never mind going out for dinner to Nobu, Malibu. No. We were catching up on a year's supply of Datelines when we were there. So we're proper dyed in the wool. I'm doing Crime Con this year, which is the crime version of Drag Con, but I've got my own stage session at 10:30 in the morning. Crime Con, it's like, oh my God, amazing.
That's now, Quentin Chris said he always wanted to commit a glamorous crime. If you got to do a glamorous crime yourself, what would it be?
Oh my God, Stephen, I think I don't condone any crime, of course, but I am fascinated by con people. Yeah. And there is a guy called Christian Rockefeller. That's not his real name, but obviously it's a great con name because he conned everybody to think he was part of the Rockefeller family.
Oh God, yeah.
And how these people manage to persuade people to part with such extremes of money, and they live this incredible life. If you're going to call something a glamorous crime, it would be one of those crimes. I listened to an amazing podcast called The Hollywood Con Queen, Now, again, it's pretty horrendous what this person did. And the only way that this crime stopped was because of COVID. This would have still been ongoing. So basically, this woman, I don't want to, in case people listen to it, this woman was pretending to be a top producer. And if you went on IMDb, which is the website for what's happening in the film and television world, everything that she said was backed up. So she was booking actors, makeup artists, producers at the top of their game to fly out to Jakarta in Indonesia on a fake job. And these people, I mean, honest to God, but some of these people are devastated. It's left such huge scars with them. The fact that they were so manipulated. So again, I know what you mean by a glamorous crime. I suppose some diamond thefts and art thefts and stuff. Some are incredibly clever and fascinating to watch.
I'd like to be a cat burglar and steal some jewelry for someone really expensive and then drop it on a lover's pillow. It would just be fun. It would kind of like, as a nice.
Oh my God, Stephen, milk tray man.
Yeah, I would like to be the milk tray man.
We talk about those and we can make light of those, but actually every crime, it's actually what happens to the survivors of the crime, which is what my series is about. And
what do you think is going to happen to the theatre in Britain with all this going on?
Well, there is certainly life now being injected into it after such a horrendously long time. And I hope that if this coming out of lockdown is going the way that it's meant to be going, and that the vaccine program continues to continue, that we are going to be back. Theatre is coming back. As I say, there are many of the top producers who say they won't even go there until if they think it has to be socially distanced. There are so many safety measures, air conditioning, all of these different things that are going to come into play. But theatre is coming back. We can't live without theatre, Stephen. You know, I miss it so much. It's not about being in something. It's about sitting there watching theatre. It's my lifeblood, and it's a lot of people's lifeblood. And without it, we're nothing. We need it.
Now, Denise, it's a really nice chat to you. Would you just tell us a little bit about the first episode that's coming up?
Okay, the first episode that's coming up on Monday features a young, amazing girl called Kaylee White. Kaylee was 17 just a few years ago, and it was a bright, she had the whole future ahead of her, training to be a police officer that she dreamt of doing for a small child. She was on the road to reaching that dream. It was a beautiful sunny day like today. It was got a bit overcast, but a beautiful summer's day, broad daylight, 4 p.m. in the afternoon in the summer. She was walking to her best friend's house. She passed an altercation between 3 men that she just ignored. It was none of her business, kept her head down and walked on. The next thing she knew, she saw an arm come round her. She said she recognized the arm, a color similar to this I'm wearing now, recognized it as one of the guys. The next thing she knew, she felt something hot in her back. She didn't realize it was a knife the size of a bread knife. It plunged into her internal organs. She was left with a 1% chance of survival. And it's an incredible story about how the fact that her friend's brother was being picked up by some friends and drove up to the house. If they had not got her in the car and waited for the ambulance, she would have bled out. While she was bleeding out across her friend's knees in the back, she saw the perpetrator, Lee Jeffries Jones, waving a knife in the middle of the street, and she said to her friend, take a photo of him. I mean, can you imagine? She's 17 and she's thinking that far ahead. Anyway, she was given a 1% chance of survival. Obviously, she was at death's door for weeks and weeks and weeks. Once she had got through this and overcome her physical scars, the scar being all the way down the front of her. And for a young girl who was just coming into womanhood to have to deal with that, she then became addicted to prescription medication. She had to fight through that addiction with the help of her mother and supportive family. But then, of course, that's when the mental scars start to happen. Not only has she moved forward from this, of all of our survivors, Kaylee chose to forgive this person. And when she read out her impact statement in court, she chose to forgive him. That is how she's moved on. She now has 2 children and she's living a full life. However, he did rob her of her future. He hasn't robbed her of an amazing future, but he's robbed her of the future that she wanted, because she was no longer able to, for several physical and mental reasons, to become a police officer. But she is a true survivor, and I'm very proud to tell her story on Monday.
Well, I've got to ask this question. What was the motivation for doing something like that?
Well, that's what we never knew. And unfortunately, with some of these cases, with many things, with a random attack like that, you often don't know why. He has apologized to her, but he has never said why. And not only that, he actually went in to say that there were several people that witnessed the attack, and he went in and terrorized them as well, which she didn't know until she was out of hospital. So, you know, it's an incredible story.
That's obviously amazing. Well, listen, that's out on Monday. What time does it come out Monday?
9 o'clock on the Crime and Investigation channel. So for people who've got Sky, it's on there.
Denise, I love you to bits, and
love you too.
Thank you so much for doing this, and we will speak to you again soon. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Stephen.